Final Fantasy. Chances are, if you like video games and haven't been living under a rock for the past 35 years, at some point in your life you must have heard about Final Fantasy. Produced by Hironobu Sakaguchi, Final Fantasy was the last attempt of Squaresoft at the time to make a successful video game to keep the company afloat. Granted, they now are doing everything in their hands to make it drown again, but that's a story for another time.
Hello, how are you? I am under the water. Please help me. Here too much raining.
Final Fantasy 1 has been released on so many platforms as of now that it's mostly probable that you have it than not. I mean, just look at these. I don't even know what a Foman 901i is. Small curiosity about me is that I collect Final Fantasy games, but I don't actually play them. And I always tell myself that eventually there is going to come a time where I will play them all. And that time finally came because I can proudly say I have 100%ed Final Fantasy 1 Pixel Remastered on Steam. Similarly to many people, I grew up with Pokemon. Therefore, I am on the spectrum of people that actually like turn-based games. Needless to say that I enjoyed the fact that in this game I wasn't under any stress due to my stupid brain not being able to handle active time battle systems like the one in Final Fantasy 9 or Final Fantasy 7. Boy oh boy was this game a treat. Don't get me wrong, the game definitely shows its age even if it's a remaster, but there is something about the way the game looks that screams founding father of RPGs if I've ever seen one. Right from the get-go you're thrown into a huge world and you have to kill. Wait, you're not ready. You have to kill the last boss of the game. It's one of the first things you go against in the entire game. Yes, you kill the last boss in the first 10 minutes of your playthrough, and then the game basically consists of you going around a huge world either by walking or by boat or airship to different dungeons to defeat the 4 fiends and restore peace and light to the world by activating 4 crystals around the world. In the beginning of your game you are given the choice of using 6 classes, of which you can only bring along 4. For my playthrough I chose Warrior, Thief, White Mage and Black Mage, which I appropriately named Jack, Ninja, Ophelia and Vivi. Being able to give names to these characters was a good idea, as I feel like by giving them names I wanted, I felt more attached to my party, so that's something I applaud Square for doing. As for the highlights of this game, for me I'd have to say the diversity of spells along with the simple but fun combat is what really got me hooked. The fact that I could constantly grind and get new spells made it so I actually felt that my character was progressing, even though I might say the random encounters can prove to be a bit much at times, maybe when you're leaving a dungeon or you just want to get somewhere to progress with the story. Getting to a new town and place in the map was also very fun, seeing as you play most of the game clueless of what threat you have to face next. Seriously, this game takes you places from sea dungeons to air dungeons to deserts to elf kingdoms. If it is variety you want, variety is what you're getting from this game. Despite having a discombobulated story, Final Fantasy 1 still manages to have key moments that I won't forget for a long time. Moments like defeating Garland for the first time using your first AoE spell, or getting a blessing from Bahamut that evolves all of your characters to their more appropriated jobs, or killing Tiamat, or even killing Chaos, the last boss. The end of this game is also a treat. You go back in time into the first dungeon you go to in the game, and it is basically a boss rush where you have to prove your strength one last time before reaching Chaos, which is a hard fight in comparison to the rest of the game, and even so it only took me 2 attempts at downing him before seeing the huge credits that took like 10 minutes or something. Another point that was remarkable that I have to point out that was also fun and sometimes tedious, but in very specific situations, was the feeling of the bestiary, which basically consists of beating every single mob in the game. This is completely easy to do, however there's this one mechanical dude in one of the last dungeons, right before killing Tiamat, the 4th fiend, that decided that he was going to take hours to appear and then nuke my party once it showed up, leaving me to search for him another 2 hours before him showing up and I beating his ass. That was fun times as well. Overall, I can say I had a good time with Final Fantasy 1, and it didn't feel as dated as I thought it would. From the amazing music to the classic style of gameplay, I can now consider myself a proud fan of the Final Fantasy franchise. I am probably gonna replay the game at some point without a guide to see if I can beat it by myself, but until then, there are a lot of Final Fantasy games I have to play. I hope you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe for future content, and goodbye. Also, shout out to Lilet, who makes the best Final Fantasy guides out there. If you want to beat any Final Fantasy, he has a lot of guides for every single one. The guide I used will be down in the description, so in case you want to use it, it's very easy to follow and you should definitely check it out and give it a thumbs up on Steam. And that's it.